Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of College Hockey Talk. On today's episode, I am joined by UNH hockey player and former Babson hockey player Ryan Black. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, Ryan. How's everything going?
Yeah, thank you for having me on. Things are great. A little bit quieter now that the season's over, and being a fifth year, you don't have those spring workouts and stuff, but things are going well.
Yeah, and is it weird? I'm surprised they won't let you do it, even if you're still technically on the team, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't necessarily asked if I wanted to, but I think it's kind of even when I was at Babson, it's their team now. The guys who are moving on, who are going to be graduating from the program, it's time for the younger guys to step up and step in, have them be the ones who are in charge of everything. So I think that's kind of out with the older guys and then in with the newer guys.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, UNH is a very young team, so excited to see what they can accomplish next year.
Yeah, same here. I'm really excited to see what's going to happen with the team next year. I'm looking forward and very optimistic for them.
Now, I kind of want to touch on a lot of things, so I thought it would be best to start off at the beginning of your hockey career and kind of work all the way up to where you are today. So, you're from Pomfret, Connecticut. Talk about growing up there and how did you start playing hockey?
Yeah, so Pomfret's northeast corner of Connecticut, quiet corner. It's not really a hockey hotbed, I'd say. But so growing up there was awesome. It's a small town, but it's close to a lot of different places. It's easy to get to Rhode Island, easy to get to Massachusetts. But I started playing at Griffin Youth Hockey in the Yon rink on the campus of Pomfret School. We live right down the road from Pomfret School, prep school campus. So I started getting on skates when I was, I think, 4 years old, and then from there, from the second I got on, I always loved it. My dad, he built a backyard rink a couple of years and stuff, so that was just where the love of the game. And I like playing other sports too, but hockey was always the one that stood out for me. And just from there, I started playing Griffin Youth Hockey when I got to be 8 or 9 years old, then went over to Worcester Travel League. And then from there, ended up playing the rest of my youth days, the Providence Capitals in North Smithfield, Rhode Island, where it wasn't too far. It was about a 40-minute drive from Pomfret, but it was definitely worth it. And I loved my time there.
Did you have a favorite player growing up? I'm assuming it says that you're a Bruins fan, so I'm assuming it was
Yeah,
someone on the Bruins.
diehard Bruins fan. So I'm excited for the game. I was happy they played well in game one. But I've always loved Bergeron. I wore 37 growing up just because of him, and he's just been like a kind of guy that I think everyone should model their game, not only their game after, but their personality and how they carry themselves off the ice too. So he's been just the guy I've always looked for. And it's great to watch the Pasternak, Marchand, love them, but Bergie's been the guy from since when I was 8 years old, where I've always loved him.
Do you think this is his last year, or do you think he's got one more year left in him? Even I
I
think if
think
they
he's
if think if they win the cup, I think he's gonna call it a career. That's my
Yeah, I
opinion.
think he's probably done after this year, which I hope they can send him Krejci off on one last run. I remember when 2011 when they won it, and then I was actually at both 2013 and 2019 in the Garden when they lost those Stanley Cups. So I'm really hoping they can finally give them one last send off before a couple of them head on their way to retirement.
Are you not gonna go this year just because of superstition?
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think I'm a jinx, so I won't. I would love to go, but I don't think it's going to be in the cards.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. I was always a big Tuukka Rask guy, even though I wasn't a goalie. I always liked him a lot. That was my favorite Bruins player.
Oh, all right. Yeah, I mean Tuca's been he's been a staple for. I wish he got it. I wish he won the. People always gave him like a hard time and didn't think of him as good of a goalie when we were spoiled with how good he was, and
Yeah.
they wouldn't have been to the cup in 2019 if it wasn't for him. And I wish he could have gotten the cup as a starter, but hey, he got one as a backup still, so he still has his name on the cup.
I just wish his career ended off on better terms. It sort of ended all of a sudden with that hip injury. So that's sort of my like that's what I feel bad about him, at least the most.
Yeah, I agree. It was kind of a weird way for him to end, and the Boston sports media portrayed it a little bit differently than.
Exactly. But before college hockey, just doing research on yourself, it said that you played obviously for those youth hockey teams that you mentioned, but you also played for the Woodstock Academy and then you also played for the Winchendon School. Hopefully, I
Yeah,
pronounced that correctly.
you did, yeah.
Talk about what was your prep school hockey days with those places, and what's like the best hockey memories you have from your prep school hockey days? Because it seemed like it did a good job helping you prepare for college hockey with the amount of points that you were racking up in those with those schools.
Yeah, so it's different. So Woodstock Academy is just a local public school in Connecticut, and it's Division 3 high school hockey. So I started playing there. I played with some of my best friends. I was a late bloomer, and I was really, really small and young when I got into high school. So I was a late bloomer where I just played local not prep school, local public school hockey, Division 3 with my best friends and just loved it. Like it was an absolute blast. We'd go play games. We'd be winning games, putting up a lot of points. And like, I never really had the mindset where I didn't really know if I thought, okay, college hockey might be a long shot. Like I don't know many Division 3 high school hockey players who make it to college, but I loved it. I played. We lost in the our my junior year. We lost in the state semifinals in overtime, and then one of my biggest memories is our senior year. We capped it off. Me and a couple of my best friends. We were the captains of the team, and then we won the state championship our senior year. And so that was one of the best hockey memories still to this day. Everyone around town loved it. All we were getting texts. We were on the radio. So that was something that I. It was really unique being able to have that experience because I know not a lot of guys get that public school experience who make it to college hockey. And then from there, I like I mentioned before, playing at Providence Capitals, a couple of my old teammates, Matt Fawcett, Mike Hardman, Ben Thomas, a couple of those guys were up at the Winchendon School, and I had connected with them saying I would like to try like after Woodstock to do a post grad year, and it just worked out where Coach Sampson and Coach Troy up at Winchendon gave me an opportunity where many other prep schools that I talked to and reached out to didn't. And from there, I just took it, came on campus, loved every second of it, played with some unbelievable teammates. One of my teammates, Cam Gendron, here up at UNH, was my line mate the whole year there. So we just gelled immediately, and it was a blast. I can't say anything but great things about the Winston School, and without that opportunity that the coaches provided me, I know for a fact I wouldn't be playing college hockey. So I'll forever be grateful for Coach Sampson, Coach Troy, and just what they did for me as a hockey player, but also for the rest of my life too.
Yeah, that's really cool. You never really hear of players playing public high school hockey anymore, at least out here in the East Coast and make it all the way to college hockey. So, did you face any adversity, I guess, because you played public school hockey or not really because those guys gave you that opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, I went to other schools after that post grad, after my senior year to try to like look into a post grad year. And I had coaches, prep coaches that just didn't even give me the time of day. And I was just like, okay, maybe this isn't meant to be. I even looked at like club hockey schools, like to go. I went up and toured a couple schools and looked to play club hockey because I didn't know what would happen. And so that was a challenge, along with, like I mentioned before, being a late bloomer. Like I had went to Pomfret School as a freshman. The prep school was a late bloomer and didn't really have any opportunity. And so that's when I thought, okay, let me see, let me try to just go to Woodstock and make the most out of it, just enjoy it. And so that was a little bit of a different, like I mentioned before, the unique experience. And you just said it, not many people play public high school, and I wouldn't have traded that for anything. But I was very fortunate at Winston School. Coach Sampson, Coach Troy, they were the only ones who gave me the time of day, and they were the only ones who really believed in my ability, and I'm forever grateful for them. When many other coaches, including Pomfret School down the road, didn't even give me any opportunity and any time of day when I came and met with them.
And how do you think that prove them wrong mentality helped you as a player, even heading into Babson?
Absolutely, that was one thing. Like you live in the town where like Pomfret School and prep schools, and you know that all like growing up with kids who are all playing prep school, who are all going to be playing college hockey, and you were just playing public school. Once I got that opportunity, it was like, all right, I need to prove to people like I belonged here all along. I can prove that I can play at the highest level. And so that was something that I've carried with me, no matter whether it be at the Winchendon for the year, or even coaches that didn't give me the time of day when I was at Winchendon, then we ended up playing them at Babson. It was something like that. Like, okay, you didn't give me a time of day. When we play you guys, I'm gonna make sure you regret that. And that's something that it worked out pretty well over my 4 years with certain schools that I went up toward, tried to talk to the coaches, and they didn't really give me any option or opportunity. And when we played them, it backfired for them.
Now, talk about your recruitment process too, Babson. What made you want to go to that school and play D3 hockey?
Yeah, so like I said, being a Division III high school hockey player, the college hockey seemed a little bit bleak at certain points. I didn't really um, even think that it would be the opportunity. And then when I went to Winchendon, I had a really good year and really good start. And so I started thinking, okay, like this is picking up steam. I'll be able to play college hockey, and academics are really, really important to me. And as being a numbers finance guy, I wanted to go to just as good of an academic school as I did for hockey. And so I had talked to a few NESCAC schools, a couple other schools within the NEHC. And then when I met with Coach Rice and Coach Coleman, who had he actually left before my time there and went to Bentley. But when I met with them at Babson in the fall, I walked on campus and knew that I could see myself going there and would love to be a home run if I could go there. And then as I continued to keep playing throughout the year, I'd spoken with both of them, Coach Rice and Coach Coleman, over the season. It wasn't anything concrete yet. And then Coach Rice came and watched one of my games up at Winchendon later, like February. It was kind of a later in the process. And I got a call from him that night saying they'd love for me to be a part of the Babson hockey family. And it was just an absolute no brainer. And I couldn't be happier with how it worked out.
Now, I don't know too much about D3 hockey, but I did my research last night, and your team at Babson, at least for the 4 years that you were there, were consistently one of the best teams in the NEHC. How did you maintain so much winning consistency throughout your time there? What was like your secret, especially since you probably had a lot of you since your team faced a lot of adversity, as we're going to get into?
Yeah, I just think that's the Babson hockey culture and that's the Babson hockey way. I don't think, and I might say this a little biasly, but I don't think there's a better culture, Division I, Division III in college hockey that compare. There's not a better culture in all of college hockey than Babson has. We have alumni who come back to we have our well, I know we'll talk about it later, but our championship game against Skidmore, we had probably 100 alumni in the boxer gym in our weight room watching the game, and that just shows the culture and what Babson hockey stands for. So I think all the guys kind of grasped that when we got on campus that we know we're be able to be successful, and we got to be committed to playing for Babson and playing for that rather than just try to focus on our individual success. And that's what Coach Rice of Babson instilled in us. And there's a reason why they're so successful every year, year in and year out, no matter if they have a young team where our freshman year I was one of 13 freshmen on our team, or last year when we had 13, 14 seniors on the team. There's a reason why they're successful, and it's because of what Coach Rice brings and the type of coach and leader and person that he is. And that's why there's no surprise when you get into that locker room and you meet with them why Babson hockey is successful year in and year out. And it's because Coach Rice is standing at the forefront. He's been a huge factor in that.
Now, talk about what's like playing in the NEHC and just the teams that you play every weekend.
Yeah, I think we've proven the NHC has proven that it's, and I know every league kind of thinks that, but I do think it's the best league in Division III. Year in and year out, there's been three teams make the NCAA tournament out of 12, so you've got 25% of the field represented in one conference with playing against. You go up to play Hobart, you play Norwich, like these perennial powerhouses. Norwich has been perennial powerhouse in Division III hockey forever. And you go up and you play these teams. We have a big rivalry with UMass Boston. Elmira joined our senior year, and so it just top to bottom of the league. You might have a couple teams at the bottom who might not be as competitive, but I'd say there's 7 or 8 teams who can vie for the championship each year, which I don't think you get in many conferences in Division III. And I think it's a benefit of being in the NHC in that conference because you got to bring it most nights, and you can't really have a night off. And it means a lot to not only Babson hockey players but everyone else. Like Hobart national champions this year. Norwich went to the national championship our freshman year, and our sophomore year they were number 1 in the country. So I think year in and year out, the NEHC has 3, 4, 5, sometimes 5 teams in the top 15. And I think it's just I biasly say, but I think back it up that it is the best league in Division III.
Now, your freshman year, you guys lost in the NEHC semifinals. What'd you learn from that loss that you think helped you for your next 3 years when you were with Babson?
Yeah, I think, and it was it was a unique 4 years with COVID shortening our season sophomore year and COVID cutting our playoff short junior year. So I think like as a freshman, you don't really understand the magnitude of the situation when you're in it. Like I can't say I know it was we knew it was a big game. We'd beaten Skidmore the game in the first round at home. We were fired up for that. But when you go to Norwich and that was the year they went to the national championship, lost in overtime. We could like that game was for the taking. We definitely could have taken it to them, but it was a learning experience. Like I mentioned, we have 13 freshmen on the team. You don't understand the magnitude of these playoff games when you're a freshman because you just think, oh, all right, I got 3 more years after that. And you don't realize that until you're truly a senior. And I think that was a learning experience for, okay, we played pretty well. We lost 5-3 with an empty net. We could have done better. And then we didn't, our sophomore year, we didn't play well in the conference tournament where we lost. We got upset as the 2 seed. Luckily, we're able to still get an NCAA bid, even though COVID canceled the tournament. But I think those 2 years, I think freshman year, we learned like, okay, the magnitude of the situation. Sophomore year, we just laid an egg. And then that nothing junior year and then senior year, it just fired us 13 seniors who have been on the ride for those last 3 years that like if we want to be a class that's remembered in Babson hockey history, like we need to make sure that we're dialed into every single playoff game that we get into.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously, like I sort of mentioned, you faced a lot of adversity, and you sort of mentioned this as well. Your team had you were going to play in your first NCAA tournament game, and it got canceled your sophomore year. Then your junior year, you only played in 8 games. So how did you handle those challenges and adversity that you and your team faced those years, especially with a lot of uncertainty with the pandemic going on? And sort of how did it fill you up for your senior year, along with sort of like you mentioned how you thought your team laid an egg your sophomore year in your conference game and then losing that game and during your freshman year as well.
Yeah, I think our sophomore year was really unique because we had a really successful team. We went on a really big, I think it was 14 game unbeaten streak, and in Division 3 we only played 25 regular season games, so it was over half the year that we went without a loss. And then we get into the conference tournament against a team that we had handled pretty easily both times, and we just didn't show up, didn't play great. They took it to us, and we lost. Got embarrassed on our home ice, and so we thought, all right, there's no way. Like it still burned me like days and weeks after. I was like, just doesn't feel like there's closure to this season yet. And then we found out like a couple days before the last weekend that we needed these 4 games to go right in order to get into the NCAA tournament. And Saturday night we're watching them, and one by one they all start going our way, and we realized that we are going to be in. So we hadn't been so we had a 2 week break. We hadn't been practicing at all. And then we get on the ice that Monday, and it was probably the best practice I've had in my like our team had had in our 4 years there. It was just everyone was so excited to get that other opportunity because you knew the magnitude of the situation. And then COVID had cut it short and ended that year, which it was disappointing to find out a couple days before that we wouldn't be able to play the NCAA tournament, not only play it, but host it after such a demoralizing defeat. And then we didn't know the uncertainty for the following year. We knew it probably wasn't going to be a full season, but the coaches in our league were going to try to do everything they could to get us games. And Babson, as a whole, did an unbelievable job to get not many. We were the first Division 3 team to play in New England. And I think that was a testament to Coach Rice, like I've mentioned before, and also the Babson athletic director, Mike Lynch, and the Babson community because they wanted us to play. And it was tough when you see Division 1 being able to play a full season with no, granted no fans, but they get a full season. They're playing 20+ games. They have playoffs. They have the NCAA tournament, and we just had 8. It was a little unfortunate, but I think each game was just a blessing for us because, like I said, we were the first team in Division 3 in the New England to play, so we were just excited for each and every game, the opportunity because we were testing, we were isolating, and we were doing all the hard things that no, like behind the scenes, it doesn't seem like it held any value where, oh, you only played 8 games your sophomore or junior year, but the long term of that did pay off and it showed how committed everyone was to wanting to just play and how committed to everyone was doing the right thing on the team. And I think it served us well for our senior year.
Yeah, absolutely. And it also made you more grateful to play hockey, I assume,
Yeah,
because when it's taken away
absolutely.
from you like that, you just sort of don't. I remember playing my first game after COVID, and it just makes you more grateful, just because like you don't realize how easily it can be taken away from you and how long it can be taken away from you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would, and it was tough not playing because you always, whenever you play, you want to compete for something bigger. You want to compete for the championship. But I think in that moment, it just dawned upon us that not many teams get this opportunity, and we're just competing to compete and to you're playing and you finally get to play. You finally get this opportunity where many other like friends and stuff at other schools haven't been able to do it. So granted, we might not be playing a full championship season like Division 1, but we're still going to be grateful for every single opportunity, every single day we can be on the ice because, like you said, it could get. We felt how it got taken away from us in the blink of an eye our sophomore year.
Now, your senior year, you were named captain of the team. Talk about getting a letter and what type of leadership did you want to bring? Were you a vocal leader or lead by example type of player?
Yeah, no, getting becoming captain for Babson hockey was one of the biggest honors of my life, and I was really really grateful for my teammates to be voting me and a few of my other teammates as our captains for the year, and I just tried to be more of a mix between a vocal leader and a lead by example, whether it be working hard in practice on the ice or speaking up to the team and to a certain guy, younger guy who might not have had as much experience, just try to point them in the right direction and lead them the best I could based on my experience. So I didn't try to be too overly vocal, but I felt like I'm not afraid to speak up and use my voice when needed. And but also I was able to grasp with my other captains, and we had a great relationship, the three of us, with Mike Egan and Ryan Campbell on who when to really like someone to speak up and really get into the team and get into the guys a little bit to have us a little bit of a wake up call or what we needed to do as a team. And then also when the time comes to it, you got to go out there and show that there's a reason why you have the letter and why you're a captain of the team, and you got to make sure that every single day in day out, whether it's a practice where you're not feeling that great or it's a game where you might not have it, you're just going to do anything you can to make sure that we win.
And obviously, that year you guys won the NEHC championship over Skidmore. Talk about winning that championship and what it meant to you, especially with all the stuff that you guys went through for your previous 3 years with Babson.
Yeah, I mean, winning the championship our senior year was probably my greatest hockey memory to this point. One of my greatest hockey memories, if not the greatest hockey memory, just because of, like you mentioned, everything we went to. And it wasn't just for our class. It wasn't just for our seniors in the four classes that are representative of the guys on the team, our championship year. It was for the class of 2021, who their junior year was the one that got cut short, and their senior year was the one where they only played 8 games and they didn't get the chance to ever compete for the championship again. And then the year before, when their senior year, where they have the chance, they lead Babson hockey back to the NCAA tournament for the first time in 6 years, and then it gets cut short. So it wasn't just we were so grateful in our grade, as I mentioned, we had 13 with two grad students. We had 15 seniors on the team, so we wanted to do everything we could to try to bring a championship back home for the first time in 8 years, as Babson hockey hadn't won it in 20 since 2014. And so it was really, really meaningful for our class and all the guys in the on the team. But it wasn't just meaningful just for that reason. It was meaningful because of everything like I talked about we had gone through. It wasn't. I think Coach Rice said it in a speech after the game. It wasn't just about what we did this year. It was about what we did the prior years too and how we earned it. And I do think it was just a culmination of all the work that we put in, everything we sacrificed, and everything that we had gone through over the past few years that resulted in a championship where it was a tough ride to get there. It was a tough road having to win two overtime games in the first round of the semis, but it made it all that sweeter once we got to host the championship game. The building was the Babson Skating Center was the most packed I've ever seen it, and it's one of the most memorable experiences of my life and something that I know I won't and all my teammates will never forget for the rest of our lives.
And you also got to play in your first NCAA tournament games as well that year. How much did it mean to play in those, especially since it got cut short your sophomore year, and you even won one of them too?
Yeah, no, it was awesome. We got once when we knew we knew once we won we were in, but we didn't know who we were playing. And then the NESCAC plays the Sunday games, so they once Trinity had won their conference, we were able to picture it out. We were seeing posts about what the breakdown was going to be before Selection Sunday, so we knew we were going to be hosting a game again, which was really really cool and something that we had our sophomore year but weren't able to play. And then we got to get Trinity in the first round where we were supposed to play them in New Year's time earlier in the year, and there was a big COVID outbreak that season, so that game got postponed. So we're really excited that we were able to not only host the game and be in the situation to play the game, but also get to play Trinity because there's a little bit of an unsaid rivalry between Babson and the Nescacs. The Nescacs are actually, I wouldn't even say it's unsaid. There's definitely a rivalry between us and the Nescacs, and all of them trying to just prove to ourselves that the Nescacs might be thought of as the top dogs, but Babson hockey make sure that they want every time any chance you get to play them, to stick it to them and show that okay, the Nescac's a good conference, but the NEHC is better, and we were top dogs in that conference. So it was a little bit of a conference versus conference battle, and that one was awesome. We played a they were good. Trinity was probably, if not the best, one of the best, if not the best team we had played that year, and we just played great. We won 3-0 with an empty net. Our goalie stood on his head. He played unbelievable. Just made the saves he had to, and then we scored when we needed to. The building was rocking. It was spring break, so we weren't sure how many fans we would get, and the place was packed again. It was just something that your last game at the Babson Skating Center, you want to be a memorable one, and it was awesome. So it was great that we were able to beat them the way we did, and also just play as good as we did. And then when we moved on to Geneseo, we didn't play in the semifinals. We knew, okay, or the quarterfinals, one win away, and we get to Lake Placid, we get to the Final Four, and they were a really good team. They were just up and down the lineup, really deep, really tough. And I wouldn't say we played our best game. We didn't play Babson hockey style of hockey up until about 12 minutes left in the third. We were down 3-0, and we started to make some plays, score a couple goals, got it to 3-2 with 4 minutes left, and just weren't able to force overtime. So I think if we had turned it on a little bit earlier, we could have been playing at Lake Placid that night, the following weekend. But you can't ever say what if after. You can always say what if after, but in the moment we just didn't play our best, and it was a credit to them for playing their game. And it was unfortunate to end. Even with how successful our team was that year in our career was, it was definitely a bummer to end. It's such a good way, but end it. Like we did, being so close to getting to that final game.
And when you look back on it now, what do you take away from your Babson hockey career?
Yeah, I take away. I just think it's just a culmination of so many different things. I think, like I mentioned it, I can never talk enough about how great of a guy and Coach Rice is, whether that be for a hockey player and develop as a hockey player, but every single guy that comes in that locker room is a better person once they leave, and it's because of what he does and the culture he brings. And I know I've already said this, but I could say it 100 times over again, just because of how apparent it is when you're in that locker room, and what it brings and the values you stand for. And so that's something that I'll always take away, is just trying to create that culture and try to be the person that you were when you were playing Babson hockey, and just be a good guy, good hockey player, but overall just be a better friend and a better teammate. And yeah, on top of that, I just think I built friendships that last forever. And there's a big cliche that it's a family and all that, but we were a family, and I still to this day, we go back. I tried to get to, with my schedule, it didn't permit that much, but I know a bunch of my classmates who are now working, they tried to get to as many games as possible. And so I was able to get to a game or two this year, just because it shows that there were alumni in the stands when we played. And so we want to be the ones supporting the team as much as we can now. And that's just something that I took away from it, is how much more Babson hockey means, and how it'll always be part of my life, even if I'm not playing in the jersey, and the friendships that I had and taken away from it.